Ever feel like you're talking but not really getting through?
Oh, yeah.
Like your words just aren't connecting?
Yeah.
Well, get ready to dive into words can change your brain.
Okay.
Because today we are figuring out why those communication breakdowns happen
Right.
and most importantly, how to fix them.
Yeah. And it's fascinating because
What is it?
this book isn't just like giving us communication strategies, it's the actual science behind how our brains process language.
So like what's the science behind these communication breakdowns then?
So the book really dives into how we have this pattern of talking at each other
Oh yeah,
instead of actually communicating.
right.
And it highlights these phrases that everyone uses all the time that actually trigger a defensive response in our brains.
Oh
And
real?
it makes it harder to actually hear us.
So it's like we're saying things that without us even realizing it are like setting off alarm bells for the other person.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And there's such common phrases.
Okay, now I need to know like what, give me an example.
Okay, how often have you heard or said, because I said so?
Oh, all the time, especially as a kid.
Right. But when we hear that, especially from authority figures, our brain goes into this fight or flight mode.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Just from hearing that?
Yeah, it sounds crazy.
It does sound kind of crazy.
But it's true. It triggers this stress response, and it shuts down the part of our brain that's responsible for, like, rational thought and empathy.
It's like you just slam the door on having a productive conversation.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's why the book talks about how we really need to be careful about the words that we're choosing.
Oh yeah.
Especially in, like, really intense moments.
Right.
And instead of using those phrases to shut down the conversation, you should opt for calm and clear explanations.
Oh, that makes sense, but that's harder to do.
It is harder to do,
Yeah.
but it's much more effective.
So instead of just asserting authority, you're saying, this is why,
Right.
but with more patience.
And more respect for the other person. Like, let's say you have a teenager who wants to go to a party
Okay.
on a school night.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Your gut reaction is going to be to say no
Yeah,
and just leave it.
right. Which is probably what my parents did.
But this book suggests that instead of doing that, that you explain the reasoning behind it.
Okay.
Because even saying something as simple as, I'm concerned about your safety and I want you to be well rested for school tomorrow, can really change the whole tone.
It's acknowledging that you hear them, even if you're saying no.
Right.
That's interesting.
And you're showing respect for their perspective.
Which is really important with teenagers.
It is.
Yeah.
And that goes a really long way in building trust and keeping those lines of communication open.
It seems like it's not about avoiding conflict. It's just approaching it in a way that is
Healthier.
understanding.
Exactly.
And that's where this idea of compassionate communication comes in.
Okay.
But it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's where nonverbal cues can be so powerful. Body language, right.
Yeah.
Like you can give the best presentation in the world,
Right.
but if you're hunched over, avoiding eye contact,
Exactly.
it's not going to land.
No one's going to listen.
Right.
And the book calls that incongruent communication when your words are saying one thing, but
Right.
your body language is saying something totally different.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like if you're telling someone you're happy to see them, but you're frowning,
Exactly.
they're going to notice.
Yeah, they will.
So how do we make sure that we're not sending those mixed messages?
Well, the book talks about how we underestimate the power of nonverbal cues.
Okay.
Like just simple things,
Like what?
like uncrossing your arms, leaning in a little bit, making eye contact.
Oh yeah, like I'm here with you.
It shows them that you're present and engaged without even saying a word.
Yeah, like I'm listening, tell me more.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about those situations where it's like you're meeting someone for the first time? Because first impressions are so nerve-wracking.
They really are.
You want to make a good one, and you're like in your head so much.
Totally.
What do you do then?
So words can change your brain. Talks about this.
Okay.
And they say it doesn't have to be this big, complicated thing.
Okay, good.
Just be genuine.
Okay.
Like start with a warm smile. Hi, how are you? And tell them your name.
Keep it simple.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've introduced yourself. You're being genuine. What happens when you immediately forget their name?
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
Oh, it's the worst.
But this book actually has a really good strategy for this.
What is it? Because I need this.
So when they tell you their name, repeat it back to them.
Oh.
So instead of saying, nice to meet you, say, it's great to meet you, Sarah.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that one.
It works.
Okay, so we've talked about avoiding those conversational landmines.
Right.
We've talked about body language.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about first impressions.
Yeah.
But what about those conversations where emotions are already high?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you're already, like, you're speaking different languages, it feels like.
That's where this idea of compassionate communication that we talked about is so important.
Okay.
It can be used as a framework for navigating conflict.
And that's important for any kind of relationship.
Any relationship.
Compassionate communication.
Yeah.
I like it already. Tell me more.
So it's about shifting your mindset.
Okay.
So instead of approaching a conversation from a place of blame or defensiveness, you're trying to approach it from a place of understanding and empathy.
Okay, that's hard.
It is hard.
Especially in the moment.
Exactly. But the book talks about different techniques that you can use.
Oh, okay. Are any of them, like, easy?
Yeah, they are actually.
Okay, good.
One of them is called reflective listening.
Reflective listening.
Yeah.
So that's more than just, like, hearing what the person is saying.
It is.
Okay.
It's about really taking in what they're saying and then reflecting it back to them.
Oh, so they know that you actually are listening.
Exactly. And that can really de-escalate a situation.
It sounds so simple,
It is.
but I bet it's really effective.
It is.
Because then you're not just, like, waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly.
You're actually trying to see their side.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm using my words to reflect back.
You are. Statements are super important.
Okay.
Like, instead of saying, you always do this, you would say, I feel frustrated when this happens.
Oh, okay, so you're taking ownership.
Exactly.
Of your
So
own.
vulnerable.
Oh, yeah, it's scary.
It can be scary.
Yeah, and then they're more likely to be vulnerable, too.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of really interesting things
Yeah.
about how we can communicate better
Yeah.
and this idea of compassionate communication.
Right. Being mindful of how we're speaking to each other.
Instead of just thinking about what we want to say,
Right.
it really is a different way of thinking about things.
It is.
And I think one of the most valuable things about the book is that it reminds us that effective communication, it's not about winning an argument.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about proving a point.
It's about understanding.
It's about building stronger relationships.
Exactly.
Which, at the end of the day, that's what matters.
It is.
Like, we can all benefit from this.
You can.
Whether it's at work, in our relationships with our families.
Even just like out in the world.
It's true, because we never really stop and think about how we're communicating.
We really don't.
Yeah, and maybe we should.
Yeah, we should definitely pay more attention to that.
Words can change your brain, huh?
Such a good book.
It is. It really got me thinking about all these little things
Me too.
that I could be doing better or differently to be a more effective communicator.
Right, because it's a skill.
It is.
It's something that we can work on.
What resonated most with you?
I think for me, it's just that reminder to approach conversations with empathy.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to get anywhere if you're not really listening
It's so true.
and trying to see the other person's perspective.
Yeah, this has been great.
It has.
It really has. I feel like I learned a lot from Words Can Change Your Brain.
Me too.
And I hope everyone listening did too. So, until next time, happy communicating.